You say the most important bill passed by the General Assembly, I presume this is what you want to talk about this year, got the least coverage. Can you talk about the Small Business Retirement Savings Program?
Absolutely. I appreciate it. We have a retirement crisis in this country. The Gallup poll says that the number one concern in finances for people is, will they be able to have enough retirement savings? More people are afraid of running out of money in retirement than are afraid of death. And their fears are justified because half the people in the country have no retirement savings. And half the people who work for private sector businesses have no opportunity to save for retirement for work. For all of us who have pensions and 401ks, we don't see that. But half of the people in the private sector don't have that. So when Secretary Clinton and Senator Sanders talk about increasing and expanding Social Security, they're right on. That's one way to deal with the retirement crisis. But the other way is states are taking the lead. And I've worked on this over 4 years. And this year, we're one of the first 3 states to pass a supplementary system to Social Security for private sector workers. Essentially, what it says is that companies, particularly small businesses, will have to guarantee their employees, if they have a payroll savings plan, payroll savings deduction for their own retirement, their own IRA. The surveys show that you're 18 times more likely to save for retirement if you can do it easily at work than if you have to go out and shop and deposit the checks and all that sort of thing. So what this bill does is says that the overwhelming number of private sector workers will have access to payroll deduction retirement plans, and the state will create a privately managed retirement fund for those workers who don't want to go out and choose among 12 different options. There'll be a default plan, which will be professionally managed, privately managed, low cost, and conservatively managed to make sure that just about everybody has access to retirement savings for their senior years.
In this session, lawmakers also passed what they call the landmark criminal justice reform bill. What were the major provisions?
The essence of it was over the last 30 years, we've overinvested in prisons and underinvested in drug treatment. That's the simple version of it. And as a result, we got too many people in prison, and we got too many people with drug problems, and too many people getting out of prison who aren't ready to get back into the mainstream economy. So essentially what the legislation does is called justice reinvestment. It essentially says, let's reduce some of the minimum sentences for nonviolent offenses. Let's divert people who would otherwise be going to jail for nonviolent offenses into basically drug treatment and other help that they need, or mental health help that they need. Put the money there. At the same time, keep the prisons focused on the violent offenders who we do need to keep in prison.
How does the governor feel about that?
Very supportive. This is an area where the administration and the leadership in both houses work very closely. It's very bipartisan.
And the governor at this point is very popular. What's been the relationship between the Democratic lawmakers and the governor in general?
I think substantively it's been better than it has been atmospherically. I think the governor has an unfortunate tendency to gratuitously irritate people. And irritating, legislative leaders isn't that hard to begin with. So there's been a lot of sort of back and forth, but it hasn't really had that much impact on policy, in the sense that the governor understands the Democrats have veto-proof majorities in both houses. So we've overridden a whole bunch of his vetoes. So then he started letting bills he didn't like go into effect without signing or vetoing them, which was smart on his part. So in real life, I think the major policy initiatives now are coming from the legislature, as we talked about with retirement security, justice reinvestment, climate change. We passed a very important climate change bill this year to increase our target to 40% reduction in greenhouse gases by 2030. That's a big deal, part of the whole international effort. And the governor cooperated, and the Department of Environment cooperated on that. So I think really what you're seeing is, I look at the Hogan administration, look a little bit like the Eisenhower administration. The Eisenhower administration didn't try to repeal the New Deal. They consolidated the New Deal. They didn't move forward the way President Kennedy and President Johnson did after the Eisenhower administration. But Eisenhower didn't go to war with the New Deal, and that's what's happening. I see Hogan as basically being supportive or getting out of the way of consolidating the progress we made over the last 8 or 9 years.
But it would appear that since you assert that the Democrats have veto-proof majorities in both houses, what else can he do besides irritate you if he wants to gain some traction? I mean, he can't seem to be cooperating with you on everything
Well,
because that would not distinguish himself as a Republican in any way.
No, I get it. He's got a political problem. I'm not being critical of him. He has a political problem. I mean, a good example is actually retirement security. We worked very closely with the Republicans in the Senate, and the retirement security plan, which is basically almost double people's retirement incomes over Social Security. All Senate Republicans voted for it, unanimous. It got over to the House, and the Republicans overwhelmingly voted against it. We don't know whether the governor's going to sign it or not. He's going to have to decide whether he's going to go with the bipartisan Republicans in the Senate or go with the very partisan Republicans in the House. That's his political problem. I can't give him good advice on it.